So later this month will mark 11 years since Microsoft released the Surface RT, and I recently picked this one up at a garage sale for $10, which I don't think is too shabby for a tablet that originally sold for $4.99. So I thought in today's video we'd take a bit of a retrospective look back at this thing and see how usable it is in the modern day. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. You know, it's hard to believe that it's been over a decade since Steve Ballmer got up on stage somewhere in LA to introduce Microsoft's answer to the iPad. Now, for those who need a refresher, the Surface RT was the first Surface tablet to be released by Microsoft. Though interestingly, it was not the first Microsoft product to carry the Surface name. Do you remember that big table computer they raved about in the late 2000s that somebody made a viral parody video of? Well, yeah, it was originally called the Microsoft Surface before being rebranded as PixelSense. So years later, Microsoft pulled the name out of the recycle bin and slapped it onto a much more successful line of products. The Surface RT was released on October 26, 2012, a date that was meant to coincide with the retail release of Windows 8. However, this thing didn't run regular Windows 8. Being ARM-based, Microsoft created another operating system called Windows RT for the device. Now, technically speaking, it is a version of Windows 8 and it looks identical to its x86 counterpart, but it was far more limited when it came to application support because standard Windows programs could not run on it. So you were limited to Metro UI apps in the Windows Store, which didn't have as many offerings as Apple's App Store, for example, as it was still in its infancy. And this was probably the most complained about thing that I remember hearing about anyways back when the Surface RT first came out. But there were a couple things people really loved about this device when comparing it to the iPad. One of those was the inclusion of a full-size USB-A port here on the side that you could use to plug in a USB mouse or a keyboard or a USB flash drive or really whatever you wanted. And there was also a micro SD card slot underneath the kickstand here that you could use to easily expand the device's storage. And speaking of the kickstand, here's the kickstand. You could use this to prop up the device on a desk or a table, probably to use with one of the keyboard covers that Microsoft sold for the Surface. This is one of them right here. It's the cheaper model called the Touch cover that sold for $119.99, and it's essentially a flat touch surface with pressure-sensitive labels. So the keys don't actually move when you type on them, but Microsoft claimed that typing on this touch cover was twice as efficient as typing on a multi-touch glass display. Though if you did prefer the physical feel of keys, you could spend $10 more to get the type cover, which is more like a traditional keyboard. And both of these included a trackpad as well. Now, you can't really talk about the first-gen Surface without mentioning the much better Pro version of it that came along a few months after the RT. It was x86 based, meaning that you could run standard Windows applications, making it more like a two-in-one laptop than anything else, though it came at a hefty cost, at least compared to the RT, coming in at $899 for the base 64GB model. This one right here, whoever ended up buying it back then, spent a little more money because this is a 64GB model, if you can see that underneath there, whereas the base model RT was 32GB. And you can see overall condition-wise, aside from a few little nicks here where the back paint is coming off, which is unfortunate, but that's really the only sign of damage. Everything else, the corners, well, you got a little bit of, you know, nicks in the corners here, but, you know, everything else aside from that, the screen is not cracked, there's no real scratches or anything on it. The type cover, or the touch cover rather, is in pretty great shape too. I mean, for $10, this was a steal, honestly, at least for me, because I had been kind of wanting one of these to do a video on for a while. Now, these things are not the most expensive to buy used today. You can find them on eBay for anywhere from like 30 to 50 bucks, depending on the, you know, condition they're in. So it's not like this is the most, you know, amazing find in the world. But hey, I mean, I'd rather spend $10 than $50 for the same thing any day. So now what we're going to do is see how usable, or rather unusable, this device is in the modern day. Alright, so to begin this demo, I'm gonna say something that I've probably said a few times, maybe even more than a few times on this channel, regarding Windows 8, because as much hate as Windows 8 gets, and don't get me wrong, a lot of it is deserved, Windows 8 was not perfect by any means, but I think that using it on a touchscreen device is actually pretty pleasant. The interface is nicely designed. It's really easy to navigate around, and it's pleasing to look at, very easy to rearrange stuff, move, things wherever you want. Of course, the problem people had with Windows 8 is that Microsoft was positioning it as kind of this dual tablet and desktop PC operating system, which it was far better at one of those things than the other. But again, this is not regular Windows 8. In fact, it's not even regular Windows RT either, because this thing has been updated to Windows RT 8.1, which brought along the same UI improvements that Windows 8.1 did, but it also brought Outlook to the Microsoft Office suite that is included in here. So if we go, we scroll over here, you've got Microsoft Office 2013, and you see we have Outlook in addition to Word, Excel, and all the other programs. And this was a really nice inclusion. Microsoft, from the very beginning, when the Surface RT was first released, they bundled Microsoft Office 2013 with it. And these are not, Metro UI apps. These are regular desktop Windows programs. If I can actually click on it there. These are regular desktop Windows programs just compiled for ARM instead of x86. So it'll look just like, Word 2013, because it is. I mean, if you've used Word 2013 or Excel or PowerPoint or whatever at work or on your desktop Windows computer, you'd feel right at home here. But I will say, you were probably supposed to use these Office programs with the touch cover or the type cover that I have disconnected from the Surface here, because they're not tablet optimized. I mean, you can get around in them using the touchscreen relatively okay, but you still have really small, the close button up here, these category listings. If I can frickin' close out of this, come on. Oh, the program is not responding, isn't that great? But you've got these categories up here that aren't really easy to tap with your finger. So you're really meant to use this. I mean, being in the desktop environment, you were supposed to really use it with a device like this, or just with a keyboard and mouse plugged into the USB port on the side. And that could create some confusion between these two environments, because you basically have the desktop mode and the tablet mode here. And you have things like two separate versions of Internet Explorer, which was also kind of confusing for some people as well. You've got the one here on the desktop, and if we open up the start menu, you've got one that's a modern UI app that will open up here, and this one is far more tablet optimized. You can use it with the on-screen keyboard just fine. But you could also, if we go back to the desktop here, you could tap in the address bar here, and I can tap down here to bring up the on-screen keyboard, and tap up here again, and we can go to google.com. And you can, again, get around on the desktop and using desktop programs just fine, the few that are bundled in here. But it's just really like the desktop interface is more well-suited for, well, desktop peripherals like this, touch cover or type cover here. I personally think, and I know this is easier to say now with hindsight and everything, but I really think that this whole dual interface thing could have been implemented much better. In fact, on the Surface RT here, it doesn't really make much sense, to be entirely honest with you, to even have this desktop interface when you can't run regular Windows programs, because the only thing you can really do on here is run the Office programs. You can open up File Explorer. Yeah, you could plug in like a USB drive and navigate around, browse files that way. You can view the files on your hard disk if you want to. I mean, that's nice. And you can open up the desktop version of IE. It really doesn't make sense to have this interface on an ARM-based device where you can't run regular Windows programs. Now, the Surface Pro, that makes a lot more sense to me. And I would imagine that their decision to have this interface on the Surface RT was done for consistency's sake. Now, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world by any means, but I'm just looking at this from the perspective of a novice user who might not really know the difference between these two interfaces and is used to using this version of IE and maybe is on the desktop using Microsoft Office, and they tap here, they tap what looks like the same icon to them, and they get this version of the program and wonder what the heck's going on. So I could see that being confusing for some people. But yeah, so that's the desktop interface. Let's talk for the rest of this video mainly about the Metro and Modern UI. I mean, they were called Metro apps at this time, because this is kind of the meat and potatoes, if you will, of Windows RT, where most of the action is going to happen is here on the start screen. And we'll start with the Windows Store, because I want to get this out of the way. The Windows Store appears to have been shut down on Windows 8.1. I say appears to have been shut down because I could not find an official announcement or anything from Microsoft, but no matter what I've tried, I cannot get the store to load. It'll either just keep loading perpetually like this, or it will just give you an error code eventually. And I did a firmware update on this thing, I ran through Windows Update a few times, I restored it to factory settings, and none of that changed anything. I also tried this with regular Windows 8.1 on some other machines and got the same result. So then I posted a tweet on my Twitter page asking people if they were experiencing the same thing with their Windows 8.1/RT devices, and everybody who replied said that they couldn't get it to work. So I think that Microsoft just quietly shut down the Windows Store recently, and my current theory is that it was on June 30th, because although that the official Windows 8.1 end of support date was on January 10th, I did find this YouTube video from the user Unboxio that was published on June 22nd, where the Windows Store was still accessible and working just fine. But on June 30th, that's when Microsoft stopped accepting updates from app developers for their apps in the Windows Store for Windows 8.1. And although it doesn't specifically state this, I'm thinking that they just shut down the store entirely on that date. Or who knows, maybe the servers have been down for like a week at this point and Microsoft is going to put them back up, but you know, I highly doubt that's the case. It's probably just gone. So that means we can't actually install any apps from the store, so we're just limited to, you know, what we've got here on the device, which are all the first-party Microsoft apps. And we're going to kind of go through here and see how many of these still work, how many of them are able to pull data from the web. Now, I'm not going to take a look at every single application on here, but we'll take a look at some of the major ones, like weather. So we'll see if the weather application can still pull accurate weather info. Alright, well, I'm guessing that perpetual loading is going to be a theme for this video because, well, I've been sitting here on the weather app for a good 5-7 minutes or so, and yeah, it's just continually loading here, so it's not really doing anything. So let's try to open up the news program. Well, it loaded. You can faintly see Bing News up there at the top left, but we don't have any actual news. I don't know if it's still loading because there's no animation, but let's see if we can search here. Okay, well, we are getting some current news suggestions here. That's a good sign. Let's maybe search for, I don't know, technology topic. Okay, so we are able to get some news articles here. That's nice, but for whatever reason, the main page does not seem to load any headlines. So that's interesting. But good, so we can still, you know, see some stuff. Let me try to actually load up an article. The 20 companies students in tech around the world most want to work for, from Business Insider. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it just loaded the MSN homepage, it looks like, although not entirely. All right, here's another article from a different source. And yeah, okay, this one loads up. It's from Yahoo News. It's interesting. I don't know why this loaded, because this was from Business Insider. Oh, Business Insider on MSN.com. Yeah, and that just loads up regular MSN. So, yeah. I mean, so the news app somewhat works. I'll give that maybe a 5 or 6 out of 10. I mean, not having anything on the main page is kind of a big deal. I'm trying to stay focused on the internet connected applications. So let's try health and fitness. So we don't have really anything on this area of the screen here, but if we scroll over, if I don't bring out the charms menu, we've got diet tracker, exercise tracker. So this is not entirely like internet connected because like diet tracker is just going to be like, hey, you put in, you know, or you can sync it with Health Vault here. But if I want to add, like for breakfast, I had some eggs. Although, will this be able to pull? Oh yeah, no results found. Add eggs as a custom food. Okay. So you'd have to put it in manually here. We'll just say that eggs are 0 calories because they certainly are, of course. And yeah, so there you go. 3D human body. What is this? I've never actually used this app before. All right, we have another mysterious back arrow up here with nothing on the screen. So yeah, I'm going to give this app maybe a 1 or 2 out of 10 in terms of functionality. Because, you know, you can do some things with it, but not much. I mean, it's probably more a 1 out of 10. Oh, and there, now the live tile's updating, saying we've got 0 average daily calorie consumption. Speaking of calories, food and drink. This page failed to load. Oh, isn't that a great sign? Yeah, trying again is not going to do anything. Let's just search for, I don't know, egg. Let's see what this actually searches. I guess we'll never know because it doesn't even load that page. But yeah, so that ain't gonna work. We got maps here. Can we actually use the maps program? Let's see. This should be Bing Maps. And yep, it is. We got the Bing logo down there. We have a very pixelated view of the United States. Yeah, is that gonna update or what? That is rather funny. It's like, it's super pixelated. All right, let's change map style here. Aerial view? Okay, that's more like a satellite view. Why don't we go to, like, favorites here? Add home. Let's just say Redmond, Washington. No results were found for your search. Try to enter in like an actual address, like, yeah, that's kind of to be expected. So this is still, still not doing anything. But, I mean, at least we can see the map, even though we can't really, like, zoom in and view, you know, like, roads or anything. But, you know, it does load up, so I'll give it that. Right here, we've got reading list. And yeah, this is not really an internet-connected application. This is more like if we go into IE here and we go to, you know, I've got this page open, we can share it by going here, share, and then we hit reading list, and then it pops that out. We add it, and then now we go back into reading list, and it'll be there for later. So it's kind of like a way to manage like articles and stuff that you want to read. Over here, we've got OneNote, photos, sports, and finance. Let's go into finance, see if we can pull any updated stock tickers and market info and all that stuff. I imagine this will probably be similar to the news app. We might be able to pull up some articles, but well, let's see. Welcome to Bing Finance. We got no background image there. Over here, okay, mortgage calculator. Got some tools here. Auto payments, currency converter. Let's see, like, how do we add, like, okay, add an account. Okay, that doesn't really give us any options over here. I feel like there's supposed to be stuff underneath here. Yeah, so we can't do that. We'll hit cancel. Can we just add, like, okay, here we go, symbol. Let's do MSFT. No results found. Can't even find the company that made the thing. Let's do APL. Nope. So we can't pull updated stock price info. We can't add an account. Can we say learn more here? Okay, we got some images that are not loading. This just gives you some information about the app itself. Or yeah, My Finance Brokerage's details, get started. Oh yeah, adding an account. It's doing the same thing that we can't do. Whoops, I didn't want to hit on retirement planner, but because I'm certainly not planning on retiring anytime soon. But let's see if it loads up, whatever it's going to load up. I assume a retirement planner. It's a good guess. Oh, yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is more of like a local, you know, because it just performs like local calculations. So you put in current annual income. My annual income is not, why is $15 million the default one? Holy cow. I don't know, let's say $50,000. Current savings, let's say we have $50,000 in savings. Desired, you know what, I want to have, oh my god, dude, I want to have so much money when I retire. I want to have, yeah, max is max is $10 billion. Okay. Investment return, let's just say calculate and see what that does. Well, it's pretty easy to get to that amount. All I have to do is save 2,759,552.78% of my annual income. Oh my god, that is too good. But yeah, you know, performs local calculations, so there's no like internet connectivity going on there, so that works just fine. Currency converter, this probably won't, yeah, page failed to load. So yeah. The finance app works just without any of the internet connected features. Let's try sports. Page failed to load. Is the entire sports app non-functional? I think it is. Oh, we can swipe over here from the bottom and let's say best of web. Okay, page failed to load. Yeah, sports app completely non-functional. And you know, obviously like OneNote, the photos application, the camera application, all that's going to work just fine because it doesn't require you to reach out to the internet. But I wanted to see, with the store seeming to be shut down, if all these other apps would work. And as you can see, most of them do not, that have any sort of internet connected components. So that is unfortunate. It basically makes the Surface RT kind of like a brick in its current state. However, Turns out some people have figured out how to get Windows 10 and even Linux on the original Surface RT, and well, that may or may not be why I bought this thing, so there may or may not be a future video about that. So, but yeah, that is kind of a little retrospective look back at the Surface RT and seeing how usable it is in its, factory state here in 2023. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, all that good stuff. And if you really enjoyed this one and want to get early access to my future content, I do have a Patreon down below that you can check out. But either way, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.